Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Picnic Table Chat Show. I believe this is season 5, episode 7, and what a season it has turned out to be. Welcome, everyone, on all the different platforms, listening in the future on any of our podcast platforms. As you know, these episodes get turned into podcasts as well on Anchor, Spotify, and Apple. So you can listen to them offline if you have premium on them as well, which is always a bonus. So I'm sorry about the poor camera quality this evening. Basically, I've been out for a massive hike this evening and I haven't had time to charge the camera that I would normally use between hand. Good evening. Thank you for joining. So we are on the poorer quality camera, but we're here and we are still going to make the most of the evening. So my massive trek. Obviously, I live on a little island, the island of Portland. It's absolutely beautiful and some great scenic locations. So I went and got myself lost in a quarry. I went to just simply go and find some mosses. Bit of an unsuccessful mission in that respect. There wasn't much moss about to be found. Now, on Portland, there's not much tree coverage or any of that, so it's quite exposed and open. We were just hoping to find a bit. Literally no mosses anywhere we went. So we walked around the quarry for a little bit and wasted a bit of time. Ended up coming across this we came to basically a dead end, but there's a path along this cliff edge. I'm going to call it a cliff edge, but it's like overhanging the quarry hole. Such not quite a cliff, but it's quite sketchy. And like my feet are wider than the path, so that wasn't very cool. But we made it, and we made it out the other side, and still ended up getting a bit more lost. And then we made it back to the main path. All in all, it took like 2 hours, but we thought it'd take like half an hour little trek to go out and get some moss. About 2 hours of trekking and climbing hills and climbing over rocks. And yeah, it was great fun. Like, don't get me wrong, I haven't done stuff like that for quite a long time. And it's always nice to be out in the elements, but it was a little bit like, oh god, I gotta get back for the chat show, because you know me, I don't like missing it. Good evening, Creepy. Thanks for joining. So yeah, it was great. But like I say, we didn't find much moss. We even went to the one area where we do know there's trees and stuff, and even there was no moss. We found lots and lots of ivy, but very little moss. Now the only real moss areas that I know on the island are down the sides of paths, you know, where the water sort of runs basically. That's the only places that stay damp for long enough because it's so open and exposed. There's very little tree coverage, like I say, on the island, open and exposed. So the water just evaporates the minute the sun hits it. You know what I mean? It's quite sunny here, quite a lot, because we're down in the south. We have some of the best temperatures of the country. So I'm not going to complain, but it's one of those we can't find moss very easily. Although if we went into Weymouth, it's just about everywhere. So what else has been going on? Yeah, exactly. I wanted to go and get lots of different types of mosses. It was a really unsuccessful mission. We did get a big load of moss from this one area. We were, patches and whatnot. But we managed to get a good collection together of that. But it's not of the great quality. You can see it's already dried out and it's just not doing its best already. So we're going to have to get that wet and see if it survives before I can even think about using it in one of my tanks, because I've got a few different tanks now to get ready and build up, and I've been to a few different places and got a few different ideas. I've got a few different even on this paper in front of me, actually I've got a design idea that I'm working on for the Sheffield exhibition, because we will be doing a big bioactive demonstration there, which is going to be absolutely awesome. That's going to be on the second stage of the exhibition. I shouldn't be telling you all of this anyways, but I am telling you this. So yeah, I'm planning loads of different bioactive builds at the moment. Big ones, small ones, little ones, really little ones. Yeah, it's great fun, isn't it? It's great fun. So let's talk a little bit about the exhibition, because it is coming up. I'm not going to tell you much. We're going to, like it says on the screen right now, tickets are on sale on the 1st of October. I'm going to be doing a big kind of release on the website on the 1st of October as well. Again, I'm not going to put lots of information, not going to be telling you who's there, just going to be telling you a bit more about what's going to be going on and so on and so forth. But I'm not going to be telling you a lot about who's there. I'm going to keep that secret until the last minute. But yeah, it's going to be a brilliant event. Like I say, tickets go on sale on the 1st of October, only £5 early before all the rest of the crowds. Then it is a £10 ticket, and they are limited, very limited on the early access tickets. Can't tell you how many because I can't remember, but there isn't many at all, so you got to get them fairly fast. And then we've obviously got a huge amount of tickets for normal, which is only at 10 o'clock. Early access, you'll get in for like 9:15 or something like that. But it does mean you get to have first look round all of the stalls, and you get a few extra perks that we can talk about when I do the release. And no problem. It was a pleasure to give you the laciest queen, honestly. Good evening, Tracy. Thank you for joining. So yeah, the exhibition in Sheffield, it is a long, long way. I've been looking at it. It's gonna, whoa, it's like a whole day of traveling up to Sheffield. So if you're in that area, I'm looking forward to coming up. You're gonna have to show me around, because I have no idea what I'm doing up there. It's gonna be brilliant. Obviously, a lot of you came down for the Bristol show as well, so we thought it was important to take a show up to the north. Get one up there as well. So yeah, make sure you grab your tickets. Only £5 if you come into that one. If not, wait until August. We're going to have another show in Bristol, and I will tell you details of that at a later date after the Sheffield one. But we are already be epic. You know how it is. I like to do things in a crazy way. So we're already working on the Bristol event as well as Sheffield, and we've got a few other things up our as well. Oh, brilliant. You put some honey in there. If you need any advice or anything, just send me a message anytime, buddy. It's a pleasure to give it to you, honestly. And I'm glad you're so enthusiastic about it. So that is something that I will talk about. I won't go into massive details or give away much information, but everyone who follows my streams regularly knows that I was doing a home education group on Monday. It went absolutely spectacularly. I've not had so much fun in quite a while, to be honest. There was kids everywhere, there was adults everywhere, pretty much everyone held a roach or a beetle or something. It was brilliant. Quite a few people were a little bit iffy, like timid by it, if you know what I mean, to start with, and it broke down so many barriers. Everyone was so into it by the end of it, and it was brilliant. We didn't sit down and do a proper lesson like we kind of was meant to. I was supposed to like sit them down and do some work at some point, but we just had a brilliant time, and passed on information. I passed on that same information, but in a more active learning situation, which I much preferred, rather than getting them to sit down and try and remember stuff, because that's just boring. But absolutely spectacular. I will be going back to them again. We are already talking about future dates and future things that we can do, because there's plenty of things that I can do, as you know. We won't go into detail, but yeah, there's plenty of stuff that we're working on. So that's absolutely fantastic. The next one, obviously, is our workshop at the Weymouth Library in October. I can't remember the exact date. It's the Fun Places, Fun Palais or something library event. Absolutely fun. We'll be there pretty much all day. We've got a whole classroom to ourselves where we'll be lecturers and showing off the insects again, talking about ants and all the different insects and their effects on the environment. It's going to be a brilliant, brilliant day, brilliant time. I can't wait to be there. As you know, I love doing these things. I love sharing my passion with everybody. It's another passion of mine is sharing it. Oh dear, oh dear. So what's been happening in the ant corner? The ant corner, as you know, has been a little bit hectic lately. With the Polyrhacus dives in front of you, I don't know what you can see on the screen at the moment, but there's been activity. So the bamboo sticks that I put in the other day, they've already started using them to expand their nest, which is exactly what I put them in, to move them away. Which colony? This is a Polyrhacus dives colony, a lesser weaver ant colony. So their nest was getting so big that it was looking to build its way up and out of the tank. So we've put these bamboo sticks in front of the nest, the more kind of scaffolding to attach to, encourage them to move and build forwards rather than upwards. And it seems to be working. I'm hoping it will continue working and they won't just now start building upwards from a central location, because that will be difficult to stop them building. If they glass, if you know what I mean, like a self-contained tower structure in the middle of the tank, that would be that would be a bit of a situation. I don't know what I'd do then, actually. Oh dear, that's just come into me. I honestly don't know what I'd do. Oh dear. But no, as it is, I think we're okay. There's definitely a few thousand in here now, and with added queens, there's probably about 15 queens in here now. So God knows how many eggs they're going to have. As you can see, they're eating like 60 waxworms right now. They had 60 waxworms just a couple of days ago. They're smashing in the honey water. It's absolutely crazy. They're what's the word? They're impressive on their rate of growth, you know what I mean? But they're not uncontrollable, unmanageable. Good evening, Ansi. Thanks for joining. I now think I've got that sort of the escape issue under control. That's the main thing. We've sorted that. I've put some more talcum powder around the wire and stuff just to make sure that they're not coming out so regularly. And they've stopped altogether. I have found a couple of Polyrhacus dive male flying ants around just because they've flown out of the tank, which is slightly annoying. But I'm guessing those ones haven't mated with the queens. I'm not sure, but I've seen loads of queens being mated with. I've just sort of, it's only just stopped now. So probably about a week and a half that they were the outside of sat there mating with the males and females. So it was constant, like absolutely constant. Very cool watch. I hadn't seen it close up like that before, so it was very cool. I really hope to see some of those weaver ants sometimes. I do really want to get some green with the proper green weaver ants, you know, the ones. But I need to wait until a little bit in the future. We have got some ideas in the works for expansions, but I can't really tell you on stream. Do they interbreed? Yes, they do, which is fantastic. And because we had multiple queens to start with, there was different bloodlines, if you know what I mean. So the males from Queen A would mate with the females from Queen B, and you know what I mean. to try and not confuse myself whilst I say it. But you know what I mean. But yes, they do inbreed in that way. And like I say, it's been absolutely insane. I did a short video. You got some footage of the queen being mated with, and there was 2 or 3 males around each of the queens, and there was quite a few queens out at the time, and that's been ongoing. It's just been absolutely relentless. I won't go into detail because we're before the watershed, but I've got to, yeah, exactly. Give it, right, so these are about 2.5 years old. On the first year, we got males, loads and loads of males, and we've had males the whole time up until now. And then literally, I thought it might happen this year because of the amount of males that were starting to come out and the size of the colony. And then, yeah, it's kicked off. Originally, this was a 3-queen colony, but at one point they brought out a dead queen, and it was like a huge ceremony. Like they had to open up the entrance of the nest bigger for a start, but the amount of ants that came out with her, that's how I knew what was happening, because it was just an absolute swarm situation, and out they came with a dead queen. And I was actually able to get the queen out and have a look with my tweezers, obviously. And I had a look at her, and she was just such a beautiful specimen. I don't know why she died, just something wrong with her. But the colony's gone from strength to strength, so it's not like been the downfall at all. You got yours in May with 2 queens, maybe 50 workers. May, what month are we in now? We're in September. May, June, July, August. So like 5 months ago, 6 months ago. Give it another. See, at that point, I think mine were in their smaller tank, the one they were in before this. And then they were at probably 100 or so workers when I put them in here, maybe 150, 200. And then it's just, it just expanded. Well, the history's there, as you know. Watched it from the start, haven't you, Ants England? Actually, they've just sort of grown. Originally, they were just in that jar. I mean, I don't know how good the footage is at the minute. Like I say, I went for a trek earlier and I used the other camera, and I haven't had a chance to charge the batteries between then and now, so we're on the other camera and it's not that great quality. So if you can see the jug at the back, that was their whole nest when I moved them in. It was just in that jug, and since then they've basically built a massive nest above it. It's huge. Long time watcher, one time caller. I like that. We'll have to get you back on soon, actually, Ants England. I need to start booking some more interviews, but to be honest, I've had a few booked in. We've had a few cancellations, but I haven't sent a load more emails because I've been working on the exhibition stuff. It's like I have to divide my days a little bit better, I suppose, or divide my week so I do one thing on each day or something. I don't know. I'm doing a lot. You know what I'm like. I've got a few lists in front of me. We'll say just a few lists, but we're getting there. I can't wait until there's more workers, and then I can move them into the new setup. Right, so the setup that I gave you, just speaking to you directly, you should be okay to move them into now. I'm not sure if the test tubes are the same size. If the test tubes are the same size, then literally just slide the test tube that they're already in into the place of one of the other test tubes where they go. There is a video on my channel. I'll send email actually with all the links whilst I'm thinking about it. I'll do that after the stream, and then you can put it together properly. And then, like I say, if the test tube's the same size, you can put it straight in, and they'll start using the outworld and the rest of the nesting area and space straight away. If not, then I can again show you another video on how to transfer them into the other test tubes, and again they will start using that straight away. Because it's not a large nest situation, you can start using that test tube situation straight away, if you know what I mean, because they're still within that test tube. They'll only expand into the next 2 test tubes when they feel it's time to. So you should be fine. But again, I'll send email after this stream. For you have to give weavers more food then. Yeah, weavers do have a massive food intake, but the green weaver ants are just really sensitive to just about everything: vibrations, sound, light, humidity, temperature, just about everything. And they're really difficult with space as well. They like to nest high, whereas Polybacchus dives, they like to nest a little bit lower in the foliage. Um, Green weaver ants nest a lot higher, really. So they want to move higher, and they always tend to make a nest in quite a difficult space, normally on the door or whatever of the enclosure that they're in. So they are quite difficult, but they are an amazing species, and if you get them right, then they're, you know they're amazing. They seem to eat a lot, but prob down to them using babies as and England, exactly that. It is because they use their larva to weave silk. That uses a lot of protein. Um, Strictly that it is, it takes a lot of protein to produce that silk. So they have to feed up those larvae extra on top of what they would normally do just to produce that silk and then carry on through their cycle. Otherwise, they'd be using all their um, energy on the silk, you know what I mean? Without going into complex details, but that's the basics of it. But yeah, completely, they have a massive I mean, here, like I say, 60 waxworms. This will disappear overnight, and they could do it again in 2 days. I do only do it twice a week. I'm probably going to move it up to 3 times a week soon because of the size of them. I'm also looking, I might move out the vampire crabs soon because I've always said the ants will overtake the entire tank. We're looking at how we're going to customize the tank now because it's going to need more space soon. And there is a few options. It's going to be expensive, but you know me. Um, and I think we're going to take the vampire crabs out eventually because we don't want them to just get eaten and destroyed. Probably going to take out a few of the other species that are living in the tank. I'm going to leave the big old spiders in because they were really cool when I found them the other day. I was like, wow, that's a big one. There's like a big, I don't know what it is, but there's a big spider living in there somewhere. It's very cool. But yeah, we're going to take out a lot of what's living in there and just leave it to the ants eventually and move them into a new multi-species tank that I have behind me. It's a little bit bigger than this tank, and we've got some other plans and ideas for it. And yeah, I'm not going to tell you any further detail again. You'll have to wait and see. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel and so on and so forth, and it will be there, When moving just queens or queens with workers, do they have to be transferred to the same size test tube? No. So queens, I quite often find, right. So if you've got a colony and all the workers die, say, and you're left with just a queen, and it's quite a large test tube, put her into a smaller one. You know what I mean? Yeah, use the size of the test tubes should suit the colony, if you know what I mean. So I use little test tubes when it's just the queen, and even when it's just the first workers. When it's the first workers, I then look to moving it into a slightly larger test tube. With larger ants, I'll use an even larger test tube. When I got my Asian bullet ants, the test tube, well, you've seen it, it's absolutely massive. It's like, I don't know, 2 centimeter diameter or something. It is massive. So yeah, use what test tube you feel is suitable to the colony size. Should I try make a waxworm farm or something? Now, waxworm farms are interesting. They're actually quite difficult. I've been told by a few people they're not too hard, but in comparison to, say, mealworm farms and things like that, they're quite difficult. Now, if you're thinking of making a live food farm, I would recommend mealworms or roaches. Roaches you can put into a bioactive setup simply in like a plastic storage box that you'd get from like a school place, or you know what I mean, WH Smith's or something. One of those plastic storage boxes. Put some soils in there, some carbon as well, just to keep the soil nice and clean. Chuck a load of mosses, some driftwood in there, and then chuck in a load of roaches. Now, the roaches, they'll live quite happily in that, and they will breed readily as long as you're feeding them and keeping them warm. They'll feed quite nice, and they'll breed nicely. You know what I mean? So that will keep you. You don't need a massive amount to start with. You can buy starter cultures from quite a few places. That's it. Thank you, Happy Ant UK, for saying that. Dubia roaches are definitely the easiest farming live foods. That's it. They say in a bioactive situation like mine, they literally do it themselves, and I just pick them out as and when I need them. My colony, I don't know how big it is now, but it just grows and grows and grows. But I don't tend to use many roaches, to be honest. I prefer using waxworms just because they are easier, and I have a massive stock all the time. I do also breed my Mario worms. You yourself saw the enclosure situation that I used for it. I have that box. Again, it's a bioactive environment. I let the beetles breed in the box and lay their eggs, and then every month or so I moved them into a new box, pretty much exactly the same, and I continue feeding both boxes. Now I let the worms grow for a little while, and then I'll get them all out, sieve them all out, put it back, and move the beetles back to that one, and repeat the process, so that there's always a box of growing worms and always a box of beetles laying eggs. So it's again, it's fairly easy. It's just a matter of putting the food in, but you do then have to separate and sieve. If you don't keep the food, if you don't feed them enough and you don't separate them, then the mealworms and Mario worms will cannibalize the beetles, which I've seen happen before. Um, well, but thank you for joining Happy Ant UK. It's nice to see you, buddy. Always nice to see you, actually. I remember your smiles. In fact, I was thinking about you earlier, about your when you were at the exhibition, and just how kind and helpful you were, actually. So, whilst we have got a few people here, now I wasn't going to do a massively long stream tonight, so this is probably going to be the main topic of tonight. It has come to my attention, I say that, it's come up a few times in conversation now, that Queen Ants, yeah, bromance. No, you know what I mean. Happy Ant UK. He was a really helpful guy on the day. Did a lot of extra jobs. He turned up so early. I was able to basically utilize him to help with a few extra jobs and things like that. So it was, it was very helpful. Where that was going. Yeah. Okay. Um, so, anyways, Queen Ants. They they have a really important job, but basically just you've been running it's basically just laying eggs. Yes. Now the queen ant isn't in charge of the colony. The workers make the collective decisions, and they pretty much tell the queen where to go and what to do. Now she does make a few decisions herself, but not when the collective worker population have decided they're going to move or whatever. It's pretty much they'll drag her along wherever. Now we do that to her dearest majesty, obviously before she died, but you know what I mean. So it's kind of come to mind, should we call them queens? Now we're not obviously going to change the name of Queen Ants, everyone call it queens, whatever. You know what I mean? Should there really be a different name for Queen Ants, like egg egg machine or happy with? Yeah, that's it. Well, I don't know. I expect he was close. I don't know, but it was helpful having an extra pair of hands there early on the day. Yeah, obviously we gotta call them Queens Ants England, but you know what I mean. It makes you feel like she's in charge of the colony, and I think that really does give off the wrong sense because she's not. I think, like I say, egg machine. That's what I'm going to refer to the Queens as. I get to every event early. That's like me. To be honest, I hate being late to anything. I'd rather be 2 hours early and have to wait than 5 minutes late. It's just me. I don't know. I'm a bit weird. Like, you all know I'm a bit weird, but I just cannot be late to things. Your weavers have made their home in the cork bark and able to chew that. And when the ants got moving, rather, and I have to give them extra food to feed them. He lives near you. I didn't know that, Ants England. That's quite impressive. Should have came together. I don't know. Save on fuel and all of that. You sleep too much. Fair enough. I am quite enjoying my sleep at the minute, I must admit. So your weaver ants have nested in their cork bark. Yeah, I'm not surprised actually. They're a bit like that. They're able to chew through it. Yeah, they can pretty much chew through everything. So I do like to feed them a little bit extra when I know they've just been building or when they are building. They say, they're using it all, so I like to give them that little bit extra, but there's no real necessity to. I would actually quite recommend not overfeeding Polyrhacus dives because they will just keep expanding and expanding, and it will, it goes fast. So feed to a rate that suits you, if you know what I mean. If you don't want them growing too fast, sort of restrict that food a little bit. Only give them a few waxworms rather than 10 waxworms. Oil barrier work. Yeah, see, I didn't, but in these glass tanks, the oil barriers are rubbish. I use the talcum powder mixed with rubbing alcohol, and that's the only thing that I found works in the big glass tank situation. But for all the plastic ones, I tend to use the oils. Yes, oil barrier is great with larger ants, terrible with smaller ones. Okay, yeah, I have noticed the monomorium were getting stuck to it at one point, which was really annoying. Very annoying, actually. God, the monomorium, they are like non-stop, relentless at the minute. There's about 1 billion in their test tube. Which isn't a bad thing, but they're so small, they're like pinheads. So it's just like a little load of dots running around to me. My Nicos are absolutely loving their new enclosure. I say new enclosure, their new expansion to an outworld. They obviously lived in the bioactive Ants Canada Tower, and now they have an Ants Canada outworld attached to it, which they are going in, eating, and constantly running about, which is really cool. It's nice to see the majors out and about so regularly as well. It's not something you get so much with the Mesa genus, where the majors tend to only really come out to help with feeding and do things like that, whereas it's mainly the bulk of normal workers you'll see. Whereas with the Nicos, the majors are out just as much as the normal workers from what I can see. So I'm really enjoying the Nicos. Very cool ant species. Yeah, very cool. And again, they're doing really well. See, I've got quite a few ants at the minute. I don't know if I can't remember if I showed them all on the last stream, but I will do a full proper ant tour soon because we've got more since the last ant tour. We've got other things since the last ant tour. I can't go into it all, but there's all sorts of stuff happening in the ant corner at the minute. As you know, my moderators make me keep things secret. Because apparently I just release way too much information way too often, which I have been told a few times actually. So I think I'm gonna believe it. So what else is happening in the ant corner? What else is happening? I finally got round to changing that Mesa Barbarus outworld, which I've been meaning to do for like well over a month, but I don't know. It wasn't really bad. It wasn't dirty, but I just wanted a nice, sparkling, clean one. And I saw the other day that there was no ants in the outworld at all. I was like, right, that's my time. So I quickly disconnected the outworld, shoved some cotton wool into the hole, built the new outworld, attached it, put some nice clean food in there, some clean water and whatnot. And within minutes, they were out and eat it. To be fair, they pretty much devoured all of those seeds, so I'll probably chuck some more in soon. Our seed mix is absolutely spectacular. Like every colony I try it with, they do really well, and it goes really fast actually. In fact, that's something I've heard a couple of times in reviews about it, is like the second you put it down, they're coming out for it. Like obviously it's brilliant. I'm not gonna brag on about it though, but I do like the way that it's easy. Easy peasy. When Mimica colonies, see, I get really fed up with Mimica at the minute. Mainly because every time I open their enclosures, they're one of the first ones they're as bad as Formica. Mimica and Formica, the minute you open their enclosures, they're trying to get out. Absolute nightmare. But they are quite large colonies. I will be putting everything onto the shop very soon. Let's say we're redesigning parts of the shop and restocking at the same time. So we've taken it basically all offline. Just for the time being. Which species is my favourite? See, my favourite actual species is the proper army ants. Now, I can never pronounce them. Echinon, but that one. The proper army ants are my favourite. But my favourite from what I actually own, now that is a hard question as well. It's normally what are the larger colonies or the more active colonies. I would have actually said probably my Asian bullet ants. I absolutely love my Asian bullet ants. They're so cool. I mean, the trap jaws are cool. Very lucky, right? So we always say the trap jaws. We very rarely get to see trap jaws, even if you own trap jaws. Like you very rarely get to see them because they just live underground all the time. Like so, my caverns that I built into the tank are coming into such good use because they're literally hanging out in the caverns at the minute. They're literally just like, yeah, I can see them right now. They're just sat there, and I can clearly see straight into these caverns underneath the landscape. So I'm able to see their chambers, which is not something you can usually do in a bioactive environment. So that's pretty cool. And I'm able to see the trapdoors, which is always very nice. Yeah, bullet ants are probably my favorite. You can attach two tubes together, and if they want to move, they will. Right, hang on, have I missed something? And you give a bit more food than normal. I feed every 3 days, and if they completely finish the food, I feed it up. Got another dumb question. Says if you got a dirty test tube just with queen and eggs, do you wait till the eggs hatch? Did you? No. The queen will move the eggs. Just don't rush it. Basically, is my advice on that. There's never any dumb questions. You know that. Happy creators are in a bank tube but won't yeah, sometimes it can be really difficult. Like sometimes they just don't want to move. I like colonies sat there for months. Sometimes I don't like tapping them out. Some people would just say tap them out and just be done with it, but I just don't. I don't like the idea of it. I'm still old school like that. I'd rather do things naturally, even if it takes a year. I'd rather do things like that. But then if it took a year, you'd probably have to change both test tubes by that point, won't you? Creepy note, yeah, that's it. Yeah, tubs and tubes is always the easiest way. Especially like you say, if you're adding a second test tube, I love doing tubs and tubes. It's just so easy, and you'll see it as you look around my ant corner. Actually, about half of my colonies are in that situation at the minute, where there's 2 or 3 test tubes in the larger outworld situation, and there's not a nest put in yet. Yeah, yeah. In 2 or 3 weeks, that'll be a good time to move your workers into that nest. Um, Test tube nest. Just so everyone knows, we're referring to the Portamore nest that we have for sale on the website. You should all be familiar with it. It's 3 test tubes attached to a connection thing, attached to an outworld. So yeah, and Lasius niger colony, 50 workers. Yeah, that'll be, like I say, in that test tube situation, they'll be absolutely spectacular. And you'll be able to see them running about and foraging and doing all the bits and bobs. It'll be great fun. But I'm glad you're happy with it. Like you seem to be happy with it, anyways. It's always really cool to find someone who's enthusiastic and excited about ants as well. Because it's one of those things you don't find lots of people that are super excited about ants, but I always am. My messes are in a 3 tube setup. How long I give more water to 1 tube without letting ants dry out? Ants out. Um, Hang on. What type of 3 tube setup? See, our 3 tube setup, the tubes have a little hole at the far end, and you can insert more water as and when they're needed. So that's like really handy how you hydrate it. But if they're inside like a Venus nest, really it's a matter of like waiting until that tube is empty, quickly whack it out, put some cotton in the hole, you know, take the cotton out, put clean water in, clean cotton in, and replace it, I suppose. That's it. That's it. If you need some help with that, Creepy, just give me a message on Facebook and I will get back to you. If I don't get back to you tonight, it will be first thing tomorrow morning. To be honest, I've got a few things I want to get done after this stream. So I might not be completely available. Obviously, I am available. If you need me, I'll be there. But if it's something that we can talk about tomorrow, it just makes a bit more sense. Forget to use your brain sometimes. I don't think you forget to use your brain. I think we all make we all skip things. You know what I mean? If sometimes it takes someone to say, do it like this, and then you're like, oh yeah, I knew that. Why am I not doing that already? You know, it's just one of those things. As soon as I put the honey in, the whole colony and the queen was moving. The queen even went to the middle of the tube. That sounds absolutely fantastic. Yeah, they were a really active colony. Actually, quite a few of them that I brought to the show were really good colonies. That's why I should say, the show to the event the other day. That's why I bought them, because they were active. They were feeding well and good kind of response to that, you know. Creepy, you'll soon be answering these questions yourself. Yeah, that's it. We're all learning all the time, aren't we, Happy Ann? I like to say no one's really an expert. I'm definitely not an expert. We're all learning. We all learn from each other. And I know, Creepy, you're much more specialised in some things that I ain't got a clue about. So I've asked you for help in the past. So, you know, like I say, no question is a dumb question, and we always love helping out because it gives us something to talk about as well. Yeah, that's it. We all start at point zero. I like that. I hope so. So my aim is to give people exactly. I love helping out other people. It's like I keep saying, one of my passions is like sharing my passion with other people and helping them understand it and get involved in it. It's definitely turned into something that I really enjoy doing. Almost as much as the ants themselves, you know what I mean? I just love getting out there and showing them off. It's great fun. I did take Amy with me to the event on Monday. I will say she absolutely superstar. Everyone loves Amy, but she didn't do a lot of work. She kind of got there, played pool for a bit. She did Hoover, but that like at the end of the event, but she that wasn't really helping me. She did just Hoover, but that's all right. Amy, she's absolutely fantastic and a great little messy moo. Obviously, if you haven't already, check out the amazing Amy's YouTube channel. She does videos about ants and yoga and all sorts of funny things. The amazing Amy, she's absolutely fantastic. We got some more videos that I'm editing and I need to upload for her because she's moaning at me that I haven't done it. But yeah, we'll get there eventually. The Black Warriors and the Queen, the Black Goddess. Nice. See, every colony needs a name, especially if you're just starting. If you've only got one or two colonies, yeah, definitely name them. So I used to have names for them, and I still do name a lot of my colonies if I have the same species a couple of times, but only really to tell them apart. And for YouTube's sake, so everyone else can tell them apart. Exactly. But I will say I've got what 40 something colonies of ants and a lot of other enclosures as well at the moment. So I don't think I could even remember that many names. You've never named yours Happy Ant. Is it never never you never wanted to, or you just haven't? What event was on Monday? It was a homeschool event that I went to, and I was supposed to get there and show off the insects and ants for a while, then sort of sit them down and teach them a bit about a few things. We didn't do that. They came in, held all the insects, asked me questions, and I passed on the information that way, rather than sitting them down and sort of boring them. They're home ed children. They're more used to active learning. So let's go with active learning. And they just came in, asked questions. They all held roaches or beetles or whatever. And it was an absolutely fantastic day. Yeah, absolutely great. I can't wait to go back. Basically, they have asked us to come back in the future, and we will be going back doing all sorts of different things with them. But it was absolutely fantastic. Obviously, it's not something that is open to you, I'm afraid. We have got a event in October. I can't remember. I think it's October the 18th or something like that, 20th. I can't remember. It's on the website. We've got an event in October at Weymouth Library, which is a free event. Anyone local is able to come to that. You're more than welcome. It's going to be absolutely spectacular. We've got a classroom there. We're going to be taking a load of our enclosures along, giving lectures pretty much all day. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. Ours have names easy to remember. Our names in Poxy Latin. Yes, that's very, very true, Ants England. I am rubbish with the Latin names. I remember a few. Pronunciation is another matter, but I think you can let me off because I'm not Roman. I don't speak Latin. There are just so many people naming. You'll end up with See, I'm rubbish with names. I'm not that imaginative in that respect. I've got other things on my mind. Put like a piece of paper, write on it the name of a colony. Yeah, see, I did start labeling my colonies at one point, but then I labeled the space where the colony was because I didn't want to ruin the enclosures. But then I moved things about and it didn't work. So then I started labeling like parts of enclosures or bits and bobs, but I didn't really like that, so I just stopped in the end. I don't know. Well, my Asian bullet ants still have a few males knocking about, but I don't think they're still going through that massive die-off. I might be wrong, but that die-off that I thought they were going through, I think it's just a natural process, and they're still doing okay. From what I can tell, they're still repopulating. They're still taking on lots of protein, but obviously the protein would be put into the males if the gamete's infertile. So it's I'm hoping that it's a good situation still. I'm not worried too much. When I was feeding them just yesterday, actually, there was absolutely tons of them. So I'm not too worried, although I do need to put in some more isopods and things like that just to get rid of the pile of dead bodies because I don't really want to be picking them up out of that enclosure. They do jump at me. Oh, we've got a visitor. That is our Evie. Good evening, Evie. You coming to? Yeah, she's coming to sit with me. You gonna say hello down the microphone? You gonna say hello? No. See, Evie doesn't talk much, but she's getting there. You're getting there, aren't you, darling? Can you say I can't stop hiccuping? Say I can't stop hiccuping. You say it. No, you're not going to say. That's one of the few things she can say really, really well is I can't stop hiccuping. So, but she wasn't going to do it on the microphone. Apparently, she's not a performing monkey. Bless her. But that's our life. We get invaded occasionally. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. I remember other people's colonies more by their setups. Yes, that's very true. Their setups, I think that's like the integral part of what you do remember, isn't it? Because it's like the ants themselves are cool and exciting, but it's the setup that they're in which really makes them a viewing point. Is that right? You know what I mean? Because it's like if you just had them sort of in the test tube, sat next to, say, a big tank like this, which one are you going to watch? So, yeah, it's like that's the point that sticks in your mind is the enclosures, even down to the smaller ones. Like, I think, like you say, that's what sticks in your mind rather than the ants themselves or names. I don't know, but yeah. So you all laughing. I'm embarrassed because I thought she was going to talk, but no. They say she doesn't talk. She is a non-verbal autistic child. Bless her. She's an absolute angel. Um, but she has started saying a few words, which is awesome. But she's not a performing monkey, and she won't do it on command apparently. But if you're trying to get her to go to sleep, that's all she says, you know. Bless her. But we're not going to complain. We're not going to moan because it's always nice to hear her talk. You watch your dives the most. To be honest, I think I watch my dives the most, but that's because they're in the biggest tank and the biggest colony. Um, that might change very soon. I won't go into details, of course, but yeah, I think it might change soon. But I've got so many colonies, you know. To be honest, I watch my trapjaws a lot these days because they're right next to my desk. My bullet ants are right behind me. My big tank's right behind me. I watched Nico's quite a lot because they're to the right hand side of me. It's basically what's in my eye line. Oh, okay. Um, message. I will message you. I will message you. But don't worry. In fact, I'll message you in just a few minutes. We are coming to the end of the stream. So, I think I've just about covered everything on my list of things to talk about today. Is there anything that anyone wants to ask me before we go? If not, I'm going to start saying thank you to the sponsors and all of that stuff. And then I've got, I say, a few emails to send if you need me. And then I've got some other stuff I need to get on with this evening. No, brilliant. So it's gone quiet. So do not expect some from that for the stuff. No problem, buddy. It's been a pleasure. Absolute pleasure. Always happy. And that's what we're here for. Right, so I'm going to start wrapping up. Massive, massive thank you to everyone joining the stream tonight, keeping the chat active, keeping everyone active, and what's the word? Chatting. I'm not very good with words at this night. It's late. I'm very tired. But yeah, you're all fantastic. Pleasure to speak with again. Thank you for coming back. We're back every Wednesday and Sunday at the same time. 8:30 for the live feeding, 9 o'clock for the talking. We do have some interviews lined up for the rest of the season, but I'm not going to drop any more information about them right now. Massive thank you to our Patreon supporters, Katrina, Stacey, and Jason. You're absolutely fantastic. If you're interested in joining our Patreon, it's just £3 a month. Check it out. The links that my moderators would do if they were here, but I don't know if they're here, so check them out on the website. Yeah, goodbye, everyone. You're all absolutely fantastic. I mean that. You know I mean that. Don't forget to tune in on the second, that is Sunday the 2nd. That's going to be a really good one. We're going to be talking a lot about the exhibition up in Sheffield on that night. And a massive thank you to our sponsors as well, Ants R Us and Valhalla Martial Arts down here in Weymouth. Both absolutely fantastic for sponsoring us and everything that we are about and doing. So without putting it off further, again, a massive thank you. I'll see you all very soon at one of our events. But as always from me, I'll see you again soon, Ant fans. Good night.